Well, speaking of traveling, we're going to continue our journey. We're going to leave France for a roundtable with two industrial clients. So they're going to join us. To make it easier, we are going to switch to English. You will hear the interpretation in French, so don't worry if you want to hear it in French.
I'm very happy to welcome Renata Mele, Head of Sustainability at Leonardo Group, joining us from Rome. Buongiorno Renata, ben trovata. And Kevin Rabinovich, Global VP Sustainability at Mars, joining us from McLean, Virginia. That's near Washington, D.C. Good morning, Kevin. Thanks for being with us at such an early time in the morning. Together with Estelle Brachlianoff, our Group Chief Operations Officer. So we have two very different customers in very different industries, Leonardo being one of the world's major players in the air and space, defense and security industry, as well as a historic key customer of Veolia in Italy. And Mars, again, one of the world's leaders, but in the agro-food industry, and with whom I would say we are a little bit at an earlier stage of our collaboration roadmap. So I will start with a simple question for you, Renata. What drives a company such as Leonardo, so active in high-tech, air and space, defense industry, to create a sustainability roadmap?
Thank you, Francisco, for this very interesting question, for inviting me. Well, sustainability, as you know, is one of the pillars of our strategy. We want to leverage on sustainability to generate long-term value for the company, because we think that sustainability and competitiveness goes hand in hand. And but there is something more. I think that we are currently living in a very changing and transformative period. There is a requirement coming from our stakeholders, from our customer, government, that are asking for taking action against global challenges, to take action to manage the global challenges. There is a kind of growing sense of urgency, for instance, in mitigation and adaptation of climate change, but also in managing environmental issues. And we as Leonardo, we are a technology provider, technology and solution provider, high-tech provider. And we think that our technology can give, can represent some key solution for managing this issue. We can develop new capability, developing new analytics and new solution. And this can really speed up the transition, the digital transition, and also can help us all together in managing climate mitigation and adaptation. But our integrated approach to innovation, technology, and sustainability is the basis of our strategy, and is also the fuel for our competitiveness. That's why we recently promote this new approach to sustainability, and we presented a new approach to sustainability and new challenging targets on to tackle with climate change issue, for instance, in our recent integrated report that we presented to the whole community of stakeholders.
Okay, thank you very much, Renata. Actually, before getting over to Kevin, Estelle, there is something I'd like you to react on this, because I heard something quite interesting. We see that business is completely at the heart of multifaceted performance. And so do you think that could be the key for a complete appropriation by all in the company?
Yeah, I think Antoine said, it's not we do the usual business and then on the side we do something good just for the sake of it. As Veolia, our business is precisely to try to give answers and solutions to people like Renata about I want to be more sustainable and, have my business, which is digital technology driven, as you said. How do I get there? I have some ideas, but do you have other ideas? I think it's exactly what we do as a business, and I find super striking to say that, if I hear Renata and if I replace the word Leonardo by Veolia's, you would find a lot of similarities very much.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for that. And also, I think what's probably important in that, and getting back to what we were saying before, is the metrics. Also, making sure that the metrics are understood, and also the measurement of performance, and that's a huge challenge. So, Kevin, actually, Mars is obviously present across all continents, across very different cultures, and actually, you completely, I mean, fully and even seamlessly integrate both financial and non-financial indicators in the orientations you take for your business. You have the Mars Compass. So how do you make sure that all Mars employees really take ownership of these metrics?
Yeah, great. Thanks for the question, and thanks for the invitation to be part of this event today. And thanks also for being maybe charitable and saying that we have fully and seamlessly integrated them. I would say it's a journey that we, like Veolia, are still on. Maybe for those that don't know, which hopefully is no one, but someone might not, Mars is a very large, privately owned, so we're owned by the Mars family, food business. We're present all over the world. And one of the consequences of that is we literally think of our business in generational terms, as in generations of our owners. And I think that introduces a certain long-term planning horizon to our thinking, not to the exclusion of short-term performance, but in addition to short-term performance. So it sort of creates the tension there. And I think one of the things that's been interesting for us in the development of our approach, and then ultimately of the compass, which, as you mentioned, has sort of 4 areas to it. So the 2 of them are about financial performance. One is sort of financial performance for today, and one is being set up for success in the future. And then the other 2 quadrants, one is about essentially our reputation and how stakeholders perceive us. And then the last one is the really quantitative metrics around our impact on society, be it carbon or people or gender or water or land or some of the other metrics. And I think one of the things that's been interesting for us is, as business leaders, we are well trained and well experienced in managing some of the inherent financial trade-offs that come with the business, right? If you spend all of your money on R&D and none of it on marketing, you won't have the sales to keep your business going. If you spend all of your money on marketing and none of it on R&D, you'll have good sales this year, but next year your competitors will take you out because they'll have innovated and you won't. And so we understand there are things like that where you have to make trade-offs and understand the balance. Another classic one is some business units are great for delivering growth, others are great for delivering cash. You're extremely lucky if you happen to have a business unit that does both, but that's often not the case. And so we know how to manage those trade-offs. I think one of the sort of fascinating areas of really management science, I think, going forward is understanding how to make some of those trade-offs and balance some of the tensions between financial and non-financial metrics. Now, obviously, if you can save money and cut carbon, great, go ahead. That's the easy stuff. It's the places where there's some tension in there and understanding how do you manage your portfolio to accomplish multiple goals and what's a good trade-off and balance between the two, and how do you get sophisticated to the point where you find more of the opportunities where you can break the tension somehow. But just like spending budget on R&D and marketing, there is in some cases an inherent tension there, and so I think the trick is putting the tools and the information in the hands of the decision makers and starting to experiment and pilot and test and figure out, what works and what doesn't work and build the competence. No one really knows how to do this well yet. And so I think we're all at the start of a fascinating journey.
Yeah, and actually on that point, I fully understand that the fact that no one knows, and I think it's precisely by trying together as well that we can try to find some solutions, because I think there is one thing we can be sure of is that no one has the solution on their own. And so get back to you, Renata. How do you think actually considering multifaceted performance changes the way relationships are made, and since actually, as we were saying, we have quite a historical relationship between Veolia and Leonardo, how do you see that this relationship could be changing, could be evolving from pure delivery of operation and maintenance services that we were doing before to maybe something more extended, some other cooperations?
Well, I think that the global partnership between companies that share common ground, common values, really important for advancing in many directions in the direction of sustainability of business. So our long-standing cooperation, I think that is based on, of course, business needs, but also on common grounds. And as global player, we both are exposed to the pressure from stakeholders, I said before. That's why I think that there are many similarities among our global agendas as global player. And we probably share the same sense of urgency in taking action. We didn't have the opportunity to speak about this, but I'm pretty sure, looking at your communication, at your products, that there is clearly a sustainability driver behind many of your solutions and directions. And in this challenging and transforming context, I think that partnership assume even more value. As Leonardo, we are doubly involved in this transformation. From one side, we are being called to adapt our operation and processes. So in this sense, a partner as Veolia is very important. But on the other side, we are providing new solutions based on advanced technology to new kind of customer, for new application based, for instance, on data analytics. I before mentioned the application based on satellite data analytics that can give real insights, important insights in many fields of application. So I think that this can be different ground of cooperation, but what is really important is to share a common ground, common values that can align our strategy on common objectives.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much, Renata. And actually, I'll go back to Kevin with kind of the same question, because I think there is a very strong notion also of partnership in the agro-food industry and in the agro-food supply chain. And again, I'd say, how do you see that fitting in? And maybe because, as you mentioned earlier, the relationship between Mars and Veolia is still at an early stage. Do you think it could give us more opportunities of working together?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, I think you were perhaps being charitable by saying that the agri-food supply chains are built on partnership. The reality is most food ingredients by major businesses are bought as commodities. And so, you put out a specification, and anyone that can meet that specification is a potential vendor. Long-term, dedicated strategic relationships are more the exception than the norm. And I think that creates an interesting challenge in a world where we're focused on sustainability, because in food products, at least, and this is true for many physical products, I guess, the things you care about from a sustainability point of view, be they carbon or water or labor practices or deforestation or any of it, you can't measure it in the product, right? If you have if you buy a bucket of palm oil, there's no instrument you can stick into that bucket that will measure whether there was deforestation or forced labor on the plantation where it was produced. To answer those questions, you have to know something about the process that produced it. And as soon as you are asking questions about the process that produces a product, you're not talking about a commodity anymore, because the palm oil from that plantation is different from palm oil from this plantation. They're not commodities, they're not interchangeable. And I think that really is going to break, and is in the process already of breaking, the whole commodity model. And we firmly believe we are either in or approaching the end of the commodity era, where that just doesn't really work as a procurement model. It's not really fit for purpose. And that means that you're going to be more likely to be more invested with your suppliers and your partners over time. And it means you're then pivoting to generating value, not from the market and pitting vendors against each other, but generating value through partnership and collaboration and working together to solve problems. And I think that, is the way of the future, the way things are going to go. And that's a bigger change, frankly, for procurement than it is for sustainability. And so I think it's back to another example of how does all this really get integrated into business. And, to the question about Veolia, yeah, absolutely. I think there will be different partnerships of different importance. And so, for example, just before we came on, Renata and I were chatting, and 10 years ago, no one at Mars was really using satellite data for anything. right? Now I have a GIS expert on my team that uses satellite data to keep track of our deforestation. So there's a possible overlap between Leonardo and Mars, right? And that's even further apart conceptually than Mars and Veolia, right? And so yeah, I think that's absolutely the future is different relationships with different partners solving different problems, because that's the world that we're headed for.
Well, excellent. Thank you very much. And I'm very happy if actually we foster another partnership just through this event. That's great news. Thank you. Thank you very much for all these insights. It's really valuable, practical, business oriented. I would love to pursue this chat, but unfortunately, we are completely timed.